Right, and I'm going to go ahead and mute most of you guys.
No, well, I should have been. I should have been in. I should have been and would have been.
Okay, we have Max, Kevin, myself. Where's Ryan? Oh, Ryan, you muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all good. All right, well, we're gonna get started here. What's sort of in your guys' view? Is it whoever's talking sort of pops up?
I can see everyone.
Yeah, I have the panel view, so I see everyone like in little tiny boxes.
Cool. Sweet. All right. Well, I think we're just gonna get started here. Welcome everybody to this month's Pebbler's Mastermind, and we've got the awesome team from Priced here, Max and Ryan. Guys, how are you doing?
We're doing well. How about yourself?
Good. I was just thinking, I think everybody's ready for the weekend. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel so excited. Like, I don't celebrate Independence Day, but I'm there with you guys, so I'm just ready to unwind.
It's Canada Day today.
Canada Day today. Yeah.
Big deal.
There you go.
But anyways, glad to have you guys both on, and yeah, I'd love to. I think on this call, you know, and by the way, for all you guys that are listening and joining us here with, I'm just going to mute you guys if you're just coming in right now, but we'll open the floor up for Q&A as well. But we'd love to chat with both you guys, learn a little bit about Priced. Also, you guys are Pebble users, learn a little bit about how you guys are using Pebble and your land business. But before we get started here, can you guys sort of introduce yourselves and then sort of tell us a little bit about Priced? I don't know if everybody here is actually using Priced. In fact, before we start in the chat here, who is using Priced and who's familiar with Priced? We. All right. Nina, that's nice to see that. Who else? And then I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching. Ed, Paul, Samuel, huge fan. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, there's obviously a bunch of you guys who aren't even sure who Priced is. Max, Ryan, why don't you sort of share a little bit about yourselves first, and then talk a little bit about Priced.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for having us on this mastermind, Jesse and Kevin.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. So again, for those that don't know me, my name is Max Edson, one of the co-founders of Priced. We have Ryan on there too. I'll let him introduce himself after this. But yeah, I mean, right now we run Priced and everything. We're land investors as well. Before that though, Ryan and I, we've tried a whole bunch of different projects before that. We both went to college together at the Air Force Academy. We're currently in the military right now as officers in the Air Force, but we've kind of had this huge urge to be into the entrepreneurial space. And so over time, over the past years, we've been trying to invent a few things, create a few projects or in products. And so none of them really kind of hit and it stuck, but over time we got closer and closer. And one of my friends was actually in the Air Force and he was a land investor. And so that's what I got turned on to this a couple years ago now. And there was something about it that was really interesting, that it was a really unique idea and concept. But going through the process originally was pretty painful. I'm sure everyone else has kind of ran into that problem where all of the tedious tasks involved, the manual processes, and the kind of the unsurety involved in actually pricing or finding a market value for land because it's so difficult. So I was always intrigued by that, but it took a few years to get there. I actually didn't like going the manual process at first, so I stopped. And we did, Brian and I tried to do a few other things. And so in the meantime, we kind of kept this in the backside of our mind. And when the time was right, we kind of came back to this land concept, but we kind of decided before we would jump into it, we would have to automate the process. And so that happened about 2 years ago from today, or just about. And then a year ago, we actually launched Priced. But before I jump into actually talking about Priced some more, I'll let Ryan introduce himself as well.
Yeah, so Ryan Doucette, one of the other co-founders for Priced. And like Max was saying, we basically decided when we went back to the land investing space that we had to automate some of the manual acquisition processes and figure out a way originally the concept in mind was how can we mail the entire country at once without any work? That was like our like big grand pie in the sky idea. And so with that, we were like, okay, we need to be able to collect data from every county, collect the records from every county, filter based off of certain criteria, and then price it, right? Because if we're sending blind offers, we need to be able to have some sort of reasonable market value. So that was the initial premise. We actually showed it to a few people. We'd actually blast out emails to people saying, what do you think of this data? What do you think of this pricing? Like, are we close? We got partnered up with some folks. We actually we're in talks with some pretty big land investing companies. And then, we ultimately ended up just going with it on our own. And for those that have been around since our initial inception a little over a year ago, it has grown immensely. Like the product does not look anything like what it looked like a year ago. So, we have everyone on this call and everyone that's a member of Price to thank for that, because we definitely did not know going in what we know now. And it's been quite the journey.
I want to take the time here to congratulate you. I mean, everybody, if you can put in the chat, high fives for Max and Ryan. They've reached the 1 year mark, and that is a huge thing. And to see where they've come from, I remember, we got in touch when we sort of both came into inception there, and it's great to see where you guys have grown to. And like you, it's funny. There's a lot of parallels here that things don't look the way they look when you first launch, right? So I think we both understand what that feels like. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Price for people who don't know? A lot of people ask me, okay, what kind of data services are there, and sort of explain Price. And I've got a one sentence that sort of sums you guys up, but I don't know if I'm doing you guys justice. How would you sort of introduce what Price is?
Yeah, I would say it is an automated acquisition engine is probably a good catchphrase if you had to put one on it. But essentially what we've done is we've taken the process of going to let's say a data tree, right? That's our data provider, and pulling the data and then kind of scanning the data, going to listing sites like Zillow or Realtor in those areas where you're mailing, coming up with sort of a market value, and then actually sending out the letter. We don't do the letter sending, but we create that sort of final product for your campaign. And so we've kind of merged those two concepts together of pulling the data and looking at pricing analytics in certain regions. And tried to basically in a couple of clicks, get that data out the door for you. So we provide research tools for every county, right? So we have national coverage. We provide research tools on different, days on market analytics, number of comps, number of owner records, that kind of thing. We have what we feel like is a pretty simple, although sometimes can be complicated, search interface to be able to search your records, but also kind of manipulate your pricing, look at what comps are available, right, in these certain areas, and then export your data. Recently, we've been getting a little bit into the due diligence space. So some of you are familiar with probably with our comp reporting tool. And really the goal with that is to start to facilitate the process after the mail's gone out and you're starting to get responses. You can easily and quickly get some sort of report that you can either use for further analytics on your due diligence. You can share it with investors. You can share it with real estate agents. That's what we've been trying to figure out is, how do we share this with local agents and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this kind of thing? So we're really focusing on automating the acquisition process of the direct mail market campaign space.
Gotcha. Yeah. How would you guys sort of say you differ from other services like Data Tree, all PropStream and Agent Pro and all the other ones out there? What sort of makes you guys sort of stand out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from a data tree perspective, so our data is data trees. And so when you download from us, we actually in real time are pulling from data trees database. So that's the sort of pro there is you're still getting the quality of data, right? We don't do our own data aggregation. But we're also going to do a lot of stuff on top of that, right? So I mentioned the pricing, that's a huge one. So we're going to be able to analyze each property one by one. And we have a database of, 2.5 million comps where we can isolate each individual target property, find all the comps around it that meet those, similar profiles, and actually come up with a value for each property. I think that's something that's lacking on most of your data sites. So if you go to DataTree, if you go to CoreLogic, they'll have their sort of AVMs and estimated values for houses, but they don't really provide those for land, right? And we all know, like, they have assessed values and assessed market values, but those are, personally, we just think those are too inconsistent. They're not updated enough. They're based off of, different systems depending on the county. And so we feel like there's a huge opportunity there. There's tens of millions of parcels of land in the U.S., and you're not going to be able to be an expert in every single county. To be able to come up with those market values for land very quickly and efficiently, and with data to provide that, right? Like, that's what we love about some of our tools is we're not just saying, hey, here's the price and just trust us. We have so many resources to be like, here's the price and here's why. And just as an example for that, with our comp report, we just released a feature last week where we actually now go through the steps of our geo-pricing model. And so on the comp report, when you pull a property, and on one of the appendices, it'll say, hey, the geo-price started here, it found this many properties, it threw out this many properties, here are the left and right bounds. Like, it starts to explain why it's doing the things it's doing. And we feel like that's really important to be super transparent with everybody about, like, hey, here's what we're thinking. And here's why we think it should be priced this way. And furthermore, we had our pricing challenge last month, which was just to say, hey, if you disagree with us, totally fine. Let's have a conversation and see why that is and how we can make our product better to account for those sort of differences.
Yeah, and one thing to add too, along with like the AVM that we're trying to push forward with, we're also thinking about the other pain points that there are in the acquisition process. So if you think about gathering comps from all the sources, looking at the right acreages, and then making sure it's aligning with the pricing that you want to do and the actual overall acquisition budget that you have, along with the scrubbing of the data and everything else involved in that. So we're trying to get rid of uncertainty and then also just create a more convenient process. So you're taking your time out of the data polling part, and now you can focus more on the buying and selling of real estate where you're actually creating the value there. So that's been our goal. The whole point is, what are the pain points, the bottlenecks, and how can we overcome them through automation? Because we do believe that there's a lot of processes in place that we've implemented and we can still improve on, but that we're lacking before in the land industry. So we feel like that has been missing. And so we wanted to add that to help that process. And we know that it can be done. It's just a matter of how it's implemented to help out and to streamline that process to make sense.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Sorry, my other question here, you guys are also involved with actual land investing as well. So we've talked about this on the podcast, you guys having to divvy up your time. And I'm assuming that's still happening, that you're not only working full time, but you're managing priced and you're also land investing. And then now my understanding is that you probably got a lot of that automated on your own.
We actually do. Yeah. So we have priced, we have our land investing, we have our normal 9-to-5 jobs right now. So the way we have to go about everything is a little bit more strategic. We have to focus on what's bringing us the most value. What's the process that will do that as well? So you're right. Yeah, we do in our land investing business. We invest in larger properties. And for the reason of, we're not going to be able to right now currently churn out a whole bunch of deals and create those quick wins over and over again. We have to kind of focus on the larger deals. And with the larger deals, it takes us out of the marketing a little bit, because now we have a real estate agent involved in that process as well.
Right.
So
Right.
that's been a big thing that we've focused on. And what's been great is that obviously we have priced, and so we use priced in that automation. So and we use it to its fullest capabilities, right? It wouldn't be fair if we didn't use the exact same site that you all are using to on price. So the current system that you're seeing, the current website, is the exact same website we see when we go through the process to download data. And it's been awesome getting feedback from everyone, because it's honestly helped us as land investors as well. So it's been a two-pronged approach, which has been great. And so we go through, I will say how we pull the data is we usually use our city searching. And the city searching, what it does is it creates a radius around a city and pulls in a bunch of counties worth of data at one time. So it'll focus on a certain hub of metropolitan area that we like, and then we'll go in and get the data from there. And so it usually takes us really like 5 to 10 minutes of pulling the data. Again, if we want to use it to its fullest capabilities, so we just get the data, download it, and then upload it to the mail house. And so from there, it's off, comes back, and then once we get the leads, we funnel them right into Pebble. And so obviously Pebble, you guys have been tremendous in helping us kind of turn over and create a more of an automated process within our CRM. We were using Google Sheets before, which is just, we always start
Painful.
small. Yeah, and it's painful. Yeah. So it's been really great. And Ryan and I have worked out a process that have been pretty good, where we start with the leads coming in. And then once we get the leads, part of our due diligence, we automatically pull a priced comp report. So that's part of our process, pull it in there, make sure that's working. And then from there, we lean on some of the realtors too that we talk with. Like I mentioned, we target bigger properties. So we lean on them and get engaged with them earlier before we even buy a property in an area, and have them look at it first and say, hey, we're like, kind of go over our spiel. We're land investors. We find off-market properties. There could be more coming. If you help me out here, when we do acquire it, then you'll have the listing on the sale. And so more times than not, they're really generous and helpful in that process, and will give us a market value. And so we gauge what our price comp report's saying, and then what they're also saying as the market value. And if they're a good fit, sometimes they're off, sometimes they're, most of the time they're actually fairly close. And so those are the ones that we'll go with, and obviously make sure that there's road access and everything. But we just follow it through Pebble at that point and get title involved. So we are trying to outsource as much as possible once we get the initial due diligence process done, which is great. We already have our drone pilots lined up and everything. So we just kind of shoot those out to them. And so then we got the realtor's value. We have the, once we get the contract, we send it over to a title, and then we have the real estate agent lined up. So it's a pretty good process. And once we own it, then we really heavily lean on the real estate agent. And so far it's worked out really well. So we understand from our perspective that we are just trying to churn out and acquire as many deals, because once it kind of flips over to the real estate agent, we know based on the value that we believe it's worth and what we bought it for, that it will turn over. So we look at that, and that's kind of how we're using our system with your guys' system right now. And it's been great. We just sent out, Ryan, what was it, 12,000 letters, a little more than that, over 50 to 60 counties. And so we're dripping that out right now, and targeting very large properties, just because it's part of our business model. It's not
we're getting closer to our 3,000 goal of 3,000 counties at once. We're going to do it, and we're going to break Pebble by doing it.
And that's one of the things.
All of them.
Please do it. Yeah.
That's one of the things that sparked us to think, okay, when we first sort of had Pebble set up, the campaigns were for a single county, and it started to become that priced users started asking, we need a way to bring in multiple counties. And there was always a way, but we do. And for those of you guys who are listening, there is a way to bring in multiple counties. It's sort of a current workaround to get those in. And hopefully we'll continue to go down that rabbit hole and even streamline that process. So thanks to you guys for really putting that on our radar to make sure we look at. I mean, most users and myself included, it was typically by a single county, but I think everybody approaches it differently. So it was great to get that feedback from you guys. And it's always great to get feedback from you guys as well. So one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of recently, and we're getting a lot of emails about recently, is the whole concept of ranged offers. And the great thing that you guys do is that you essentially do, when you spit out your data, you really have sort of incremental offers, right?
We do, and this is kind of a funny one where we didn't build it to do that, but it ended up being perfect for that system. Because originally we were generating offers at all increments. I think Travis King might have been the one that suggested something like that a while back. And the original concept was, hey, like we want to just be able to see, like if I'm offering 35%, I just want to kind of know if I'm having a negotiation, I want to be able to quickly reference and see like what 30% is or what 40% is, to kind of go back and forth and not have to do some, quick math. And then it turned out that was a perfect feature set for ranged offers, because on your template, we automatically generate from 5 to 95 percentile of the market value. And so on your template, if you do range offers, you could say offer price 20 and then offer price 40, and it'll automatically fill in those offer values with those percentages essentially. So it's kind of a win. We heard people were starting to do offer acreage increments or offer increments, offer ranges. And we were like, wow, we have the perfect feature for that.
Yeah. And I see some names here. I know we've been getting some messages. So a nudge to you guys that are joining us here. But yeah, and it's very possible to bring those right into Pebble when you're sending your range offers. You're essentially just adding a property field for the 20 and the 40% or whatever it may be. And then, making sure those property fields, those custom placeholders are in your document, then off it goes. So it kind of works out really well. And of course, bringing in data from prices is quite easy into Pebble as well. Now, my question to you guys is, you guys are also Pebble users, and we're super grateful to have you guys use the software and also give us feedback. Is there anything other than the multi-county that you guys do differently? Is there anything else that you guys do differently when using Pebble? Or I know that the marketing is handled by your real estate agent, but anything else that you guys sort of do, you think, differently from typical or other land investors?
I don't know if we do anything like completely out of the ordinary.
We want to know your
plugged
secrets.
Yeah. So we actually, like, I know you get there by default, there's the comp section in your tab. We actually deleted that because we just upload our comp report. And the comp report has live links in there, so we can just click those and look at them. So that's one thing we do.
Now, let me ask you this. Your comp report isn't an actual link when you spit it out on the CSV file?
So the comp report's on PDF, and so it's a live link on the PDF of it.
So you guys upload that PDF into Pebble?
We upload that PDF into Pebble. Yeah.
Got it.
Another thing I was just thinking, like, if it would be really cool if the actual Excel file had that link, because then I know Kellen's on here as well, but like Kellen has her tab, which is just filled with links. Could be another way, because is the PDF actually hosted live with you guys or through you guys, or?
It is hosted, but it's permission blocked by being on the website only. So yeah, you wouldn't be able to access it from anywhere else. But the only caveat to putting it in the list is the comp report's a separate system. So each comp report is run. Yeah, you have to generate it per property, and there is a fee associated with that.
I feel like Kellen wants to step in to say something.
I was just going to give kudos to that comp report. And yes, it just goes right into the document section. It's a part of the acquisition process. So download the comp report, find 3 comps, build the map right map every time, right on the property.
Awesome.
Now, question to you guys. Do you guys use MapRight as well, or?
So we actually don't right now. What we usually use, we'll use our campaign map, which basically will spit out all of the owner records you download with us onto Google Earth.
Yep.
And then it'll have for sale and sold comps around that, or we just use the individualized KML file if you download one of our comp reports. So currently we're using those right now. Again, we actually keep our land investing very simple. And it's just kind of based on our limitability of just time right now. And so
you guys don't sleep, obviously.
Yeah.
You guys are living that college lifestyle.
We would love to get a little bit more in the weeds and in depth, but with balancing everything at once, keeping it simple, it's worked so far. We know we can automate some other places, and eventually we will. But we just keep it very simple and just kind of a smaller construct right now.
Sure. Hey, question.
I'm going to cut in here, Kevin, really quick.
Yeah,
by the way,
ahead.
if anybody has any questions, feel free to line them up in the chat. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
So over the past year or so, we've seen some pretty significant movement in just market prices in general. Certainly housing has gone up. I think last I saw was like 20% in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And I know that for me, land as well has started seeing some increases in different markets. Is that something that you guys take into account? Do you have like based on when this comp was taken, do you have a multiple based on what the average increases are in specific markets?
We haven't looked into that yet. There's a couple reasons. So right now we're still So I would say only in the last maybe 4 months have we stabilized the consistency of the comps. And what I mean by that is, if you looked at our comps from 7 or 8 months ago, we didn't have realtor. And so like just introducing a new source like that, we had land watch. And so it's really hard to kind of compare apples to apples when they're not even the same sources. And obviously they're going to skew pricing. We do feel like though, because we update our comps every month or roughly every month, that we are capturing the majority of those changes by just the for sale properties, because they're going to be probably listed for higher. We have a trailing 12-month lag on our sold properties too. And so, yeah, we haven't necessarily factored in like if this particular sold comp sold, you know, August of 2020, you know, do we apply some sort of market inflation to it? And the only reason for that is, you know, it would be tough to kind of assign that value because everywhere is going to be different too. Like you could probably generalize, you know, 10, 20%, but like, I know here in Nevada, like it's been kind of crazy. California's been crazy, but there's some places where it's been a little more neutral. So it's, that would be tough, but I like the idea. I think what we'd love to do with that is once we can get consistent, like every month or every 6 weeks, pulling the same data every time with no issue, then we can start to look at like trend analysis and sort of map like where the projected market's kind of moving.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, we would definitely love to do that.
Look at the graph over the past 12 comps and just project that forward.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of cool.
We're into stocks and everything. So yeah, like we always thought about like what was the past month, 3 month, 6 month, 12-month window. And you could kind of see that trend. And then, the projections out of that. But like Ryan was mentioning, it's about kind of the stability in the comps before we kind of can get that set up.
Totally.
Yeah, I think when we started, we launched, I think we had like 200,000 comps or something. And we thought that was a lot. And it was not nearly enough for what we needed. And now I think in our next update, we'll have close to 3 million, and that'll be about where we want to be.
Okay. So that's growing all the time.
It's yeah, we try to.
So what other sort of major things are you guys excited on the price side of things that you guys are looking for to put out there? Can you guys give us a kind of a sneak peek and into what's going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah, so my big, I wouldn't call it like a pet project because I actually want to do it, it's dealing with terrain mapping. And so what we want to get into is understanding, like right now when you price, it's location and acreage based, right? And one of the challenges we're finding with that is I could have a property here and I could have a property a quarter mile away, but one's on a river, on a lake, and the other one's not, and one might be on a hill and the other one's not. And so they're not necessarily apples to apples. And so we want to start understanding what the terrain looks like, what the elevation changes look like. We'd love to start figuring out if it has access just by using some sort of terrain mapping software. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but that's kind of where we want to get into. Because that's a part of that due diligence process is, right, you're looking and see like, is this land buildable? Is it timberland? Is it farmland? Is it desert, or is it, more residential? And then, how many ravines is there? Does it have easement access? Does it have road access? Is it paved road access? I don't know if we'll get all of those answers, but that's kind of our hope is like, we want to start getting into those deeper concepts and really sort of with that, like not necessarily just generalize the price, but really get to like, we wouldn't call what we provide an AVM like you would for like a core logic, but like we want to get there, right? Where we're saying like, this is actually what we believe is like true market. And we know that from distinguished features, right? We want to be able to isolate those things and say, this property has road access. This property has this much elevation change. So here's so I was talking about with the geo-pricing, here's the factors that are going into why we think the way we think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be really cool if you could know waterfront properties versus non-waterfront, because I've dealt with that where you've got neighboring lots, one's on the water, one's not, and they're like half the price of one's half the price of the other. So
yeah, there's some counties in Florida that have been the bane of our existence, if you will, because you have like half of the county is like marshland and the other half is like these waterfront, inlets, and it's really hard to determine where like the line gets drawn and when they stop becoming waterfront, beautiful oceanside properties.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but that's the thing, is just becoming like an appraiser for land. Essentially, that's how granular we really want to get.
Mm.
And we'll see how far we can take it. There's a lot of technical hurdles, but we've broken down quite a bit so far, and I think over time we can get there eventually too.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exciting.
yeah, some other
Super cool,
things
yeah.
I know. I see Callan's comment in there. So another thing that's actually been really great is our split pricing that we added to our website. And so for those that don't or haven't used split pricing yet, what it does is, well, our most granular level of pricing right now is geo-pricing. And so that will basically look at the for sale and sold comps immediately around each owner record you download with us, and it'll basically adjust the price accordingly from those comps. But sometimes there's not enough comps around a property, no matter how good it is. There's just not enough comps to be able to adjust something and be confident in that pricing. So what we do is, if we aren't able to be confident in that geo pricing, we'll revert it back to the county level offer price. And if you've chosen to go with split pricing, we'll actually separate those owner records into another folder for you. So essentially, there'll be a review folder, and it'll be the geo pricing ones where we're confident in, and then the ones in the folder for review that you'll have to kind of take a second look, just to be sure that's the right price you want to go with, because we weren't kind of confident to go in the geo pricing. So that's been a big step for us, at least kind of showing our confidence in it, and just kind of being transparent. Hey, there are some that we may not be able to get as close to because the comps aren't there. So that's been a great thing as well.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Anybody have any questions? Again, leave it in the chat. Oh, there's a lengthy one here. Samuel says, this might be too specific for this chat, but can you go over these two post scrub filters: undivided interest slash severed surface rights and last sale price value? The example given for the last sale price value is 50%. Can you explain how the equation works for the values like 40 or 60%? Thanks.
Yeah, I can kind of go into that. So the undivided interest severed surface rights, that's if someone owns, they don't own the whole property, right? So if an owner owns a seventh of the property, you may be able to list, or you may be able to send an offer to them, but without knowing that, you could offer him a full price as if he owned all of it, but instead you're buying only a seventh of the property. So it's always good to look at the legal description and just make sure that they own the entire property and not just like a third or a seventh or anything. And now you're offering, which may be a great deal for the entire piece of property, but it's a bad one if you're just getting a seventh or a sixth or anything. So that's what the undivided interest severed surface rights one does for you. It filters out those properties to the best of our ability. And then as far as the last sale price value goes, so essentially what it's doing is saying, hey, if you're offering, if the last sales price was, let's say, 100,000, and you're offering, I don't know, 60,000. If you use 50,000 as an example, so what all you need to do is divide the offer price by the percentage, and so you'll get your overall value. So essentially, if your offer price is 50,000, and let's say there's a sale of a price at, I don't know, 90,000. And you use 50% as your value, all you have to do is go 50,000 divided by 50%, and that'll be $100,000. And so if it falls underneath that, we'll keep that property in your scrubbed file. But if it's above it, we'll filter it out, but keep it on your raw file. So it's just finding those properties that are within some sort of range for you, and to keep them in so they're not too far apart from what you're actually offering. So if you did 60 or 40%, the lower you get in that percentage, the higher that value is going to be. The higher that percentage, the closer to the offer price that value is going to be. And so you can it'll filter out more as it gets closer.
It's a little confusing.
It is a little confusing. But
the intent is there so that if you are offering $100,000 and the property that you just send a letter to sold for 1.3 million, it might not be worth sending that letter. They're probably not going to accept if they just purchased it, a few years ago for 10 times what you're about to offer. And so that's kind of why that's there. It's almost like a guard to save yourself some time, if especially when the last sale price is readily available.
And save yourself angry phone calls, because those always generate angry phone
calls.
Those
are the ones that'll get people angry.
I'm sure majority of people here, or not majority, but a good chunk here are very new to price or want to get to know a little bit more about price. And can you guys sort of explain a little bit about how, and I get asked this a lot when how do you guys sort of priced? How does that sort of work for people who want to start using priced?
Yeah, so I can kind of talk to that. So we have 3 plans. We have our monthly, we have a monthly plus, and then we have our annual, which is a annual version of the plus. The cost right now is $25 for the base. That's your monthly, 50 for the plus monthly, or 500 for the year with the plus. And with all of those plans, you're going to get access to everything we have, essentially, or almost everything. And so you'll be able, on any of the plans, you'll be able to do searches, you'll be able to pull data, be able to view the research page, you'll be able to kind of, you view the comps, everything you would need to do to be able to kind of run your business. On the plus plans, you're able to do Polygon tools, which is nice. You're able to export comps, which is a huge benefit, because you can actually pull those comps in your specific area off of the website and do some additional analysis on them if you'd like. On the annual plan, you can actually use our comp API for free, which, if anyone's familiar with APIs, you basically can plug that into any external system, put in your parameters, without even going to price. You can pull comps right out of our database, essentially. So that's definitely a benefit. For all 3 plans, the cost per record is 8 cents. That's your export costs, right? So that includes, your property detail export, that's pricing, that's scrubbing, that's, everything you would need. We also offer a list upload feature. So let's say you have a 12-month contract with DataTree, like a lot of people do, or with, any data provider. We still allow you to upload those raw data files into our system. And for 3 cents per record, we will price those and return to you the list. All the plans also come with our comp report. Our comp report, you get 3 free comp reports per month. And then we actually just recently increased the price of our comp report after some new features were added. And so those are $2 per report. You buy them in bundles of 25, so $50 per purchase. I will say, though, that we are currently, we sent out an email this morning. So we're currently in the middle of a pretty large sale on all of our features. So it's a great time to try if you haven't tried it yet. And so 5 cents for owner record downloads, 2 cents for list upload pricing, and 80 cents per comp report is right now what we're pricing. And we're also offering a bulk data purchase, which we typically don't do. And so we're offering 50,000 records at a 5 cent rate. And we feel like the 5 cent number and even the 8 cent number is incredibly competitive. If you were to go to DataTree and just sign up for just a data account, I think right off the bat, you're going to get 8 or 10 cents. And if you put some money down, you might get that to 6 cents, but that doesn't include pricing. It's not going to scrub it. It's not going to have some of the sort of cleaned up features that we have. I know Max likes to mention on calls, we also, under the hood, we don't even say we do this, but we make sure that we map all the city and zip code information. Not every property has those, but we use the lat long information and map it back so you have a filled out data set.
That's awesome. And just to kind of put a plug here, if you guys want to sign up, if you're interested, in fact, if you're interested, please put a I'm interested in the chat. But we've got a link here from Price, and they've been really generous about this. If you go over to price.com/REI conversion, you get a sort of an exclusive deal through there. So make sure you guys do check that. I'm going to put that in there. Again, if you're interested, put in interested in the chat there. I'd love to see who hasn't used Price and is sort of interested in chatting with Max and Ryan about it. Now, again, if you guys have any questions about Price, Max, Ryan, is there anything else you want to share that we sort of didn't cover here?
I don't know if there's anything on my end that I'm thinking of. Just we always stress this every time. If there isn't a feature that we don't have but is critical in your business, please let us know if it falls somewhere within the priced realm that we can account for. We always love feedback and listen to our users and make sure that we're implementing the best features possible to provide value. So that's just one thing that we always love to hear. You'll never bother us or anything. We love to hear it because it helps us improve our product. It helps us improve us as land investors, everything. And so it's always great. So I always like to say that is, please reach out to us. That's always a great thing to do. Other than that, though, for those that are still unsure of setting goals and everything, it's a subtle feature that we have on our platform. But we actually have a profit forecasting tool that it's a very kind of rudimentary profit forecasting tool, but it helps you kind of go and look at your like expectation management when you're going through your deals, how much you need to send out, et cetera. What are your business costs and everything. So that's always actually, I always think it's an underrated tool to use, but it's nice to know. And you don't have to use that. I mean, if you have a Google Sheet or anything that you do that, that's awesome too. But I always think that's a great little tool to have. But other than that, yeah, the comp reports, the campaign mapping, that stuff's been really valuable to what we've been doing so far. And then taking that into Pebble, at least for us with the real estate, like that we're purchasing. Again, we target the bigger deals. So we've set up our process through you guys now where all the tabs of the properties, we can plug in the real estate agent, the site, all the information we're doing, all the title company information that we're doing. So then when we look at it, all the information's right there. There's no fumbling of the data or mixing and matching. So it's been really streamlined.
Question for you guys. Are you guys getting your real estate agent into Pebble?
We're not getting the person into Pebble right now.
Gotcha.
We just put their information, but that's actually not a bad idea to actually throw them in there. We just don't want to open it up to every property.
Sure, right. And that is something that we're talking about, sort of role restrictions. But one of the things that we're actively literally in the middle of testing right now is pretty exciting is sort of this task assignment, role assignment for the different stages. And that's all automated. So it'd be interesting when we sort of have sort of more control over roles. That might be something that you guys, because I do know a couple of people have been talking about doing that. So it would be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. But in the comments here, Sean, thank you. REI conversion price are both critical to my business. Appreciate work. Thank you very much, Sean. Samuel, here's another question for you guys. Is there a way to see when the county data was updated?
County data as in the property data or the comp data?
And Derek,
I think county data probably means the like probably when it was refreshed from data tree, like when data tree.
I get
got it. Right. Yeah, so talk about both.
Yeah, I can talk about both. Yeah, so on the property side, data tree. So data tree utilizes a rolling update. So that's what they've expressed to us. So they're updating, kind of going through a sequence of counties over time. Obviously, every county is going to be extremely different in terms of how good they are about reporting. We've heard stories about some have beautiful APIs and some are still using 8-inch floppy disks and are mailing them in. So it really depends on the county. And so that's not a question, or that's not necessarily something we know specifically, unfortunately. We have estimated anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks is sort of the timeline for updates, but just basing that on personal experience of when we see like property owners change in certain counties when they change hands. So it's kind of a guess and check system there, but I would say anywhere between probably 4 and 6 weeks is like their update rolling interval. On our side, we update our data every 4 to 6 weeks also, actually. And so that's when we're going to update all of our comps, all of our research data, all of our maps. And on our website, we actually have a last updated date on that research page. So it'll show when we last updated our information. Awesome. And the next research page update should be end of next week. We're going to start this weekend. It's a good weekend to start pulling data.
Awesome. Do you have any insight into like how big is Data Tree's team? I know they're backed by like First Logic or
First American, yeah.
First American, yeah. Like, what does their data acquisition team look like? I've always wondered. Like, they must have just an army of people pulling.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about that. We've talked to a few data aggregation services. We've talked to Estated and CoreLogic and those folks, and based on what we hear about what they're spending, I imagine data trees in the multi-millions in terms of the amount of firepower that they need to go collect 3,100 and some odd counties on a continuous basis. And then not only that, but I mean, they're also standardizing this, which is something that's probably, not as praised. right? Because every county is not reporting the information the same way. And even then there's still mistakes. That's something we've seen even after a year. We still see, we go through it ourselves. We just mailed a county in Kentucky and all the acreages are wrong because the way that it was reported is not how it was mapped. So then it's like 70 times the size of the actual property. And it's stuff like that. You're like, oh man, like, what are they doing? But then you're like, well, it's, 200 million properties or something. Like, we'll cut them some slack if there's like 20 that are wrong.
I'm sure that list like had the property acreage in like square yards or something.
Yeah.
I've seen crazy stuff like that.
Where the units are bizarre, or like we've seen counties where if the acreage is under 1, they report it in units and they just say 1 unit, and so data tree infers that as 1 acre, but it's like a 1/10 of an acre, and it's really bizarre stuff where you run into that. And unfortunately, I just don't know if there's like a fix for that. It's just such a large amount of data to constantly be pulling, and until you can get probably the county's offices to kind of be on like a standard tempo and system, I don't know if it's ever going to get there fully.
I will say though, if anyone does run into problems with data tree, like the data that's out there where it's like mismatched data or the acreages isn't right or anything, we have a really good relationship with data tree. And so they've given us their support line specifically for these data kind of issues. On our support page, you just have to email dna.support@firstam.com and they'll be the ones to analyze the data firsthand. So again, it may, I don't know how long it takes them to really, sometimes we've pushed them along pretty hard and they've made fixes quickly, and other times it takes a little longer, but at least it helps them identify stuff that they may not know about. So we always do that. I always try to recommend having anyone else that runs into any sort of thing to email them too with your data set so they're aware of it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Hey, Max, Ryan, thanks very much for joining us. Do we have any last questions? Don't worry, put it out there. You can DM me if you're embarrassed to put your name out there, and I can read it out. But I'm going to give it a couple seconds here if you guys have any other questions. If not, Max and Ryan are building something to really give you guys a competitive advantage in terms of scaling, in terms of saving time, really sort of getting into the details of things without having to spend so much time on it. And it is essentially a huge time saver. So do jump on a call, do get in touch with Max and Ryan. I strongly suggest that. You can reach them again over at Price, that's PRYCD.com/REI conversion. And I'm sure Max and Ryan will be happy to show you around. Aaron here just asked, is priced just for land?
It is not. So we actually have a housing tab where we do some similar pricing. I will say it is not as in depth as our land. Land is our primary business. But on the housing side, we also have integrations with data tree data, and we actually integrate with Redfin data. So we've pulled out all of the zip code, zip code by zip code analytics that they have. And when you do your searches, it actually breaks it down at a zip code level. It'll show you the month over month and year over year days on market and sale price changes that come directly out of Redfin. We update that at the same time we update our comp database. So that's fairly up to date. So our pricing scheme on that actually leverages a lot more of the AVM from data tree because it's houses, they actually have a lot more of that data. And so it's not quite as nuanced or opinionated, I guess, as what we're doing on the land side. But it's a perfectly viable and, in our opinion, fairly cheap way to pull housing data. We think that there's still a tremendous value in being able to do that and being able to sort of analyze different zip codes. And as we've sort of grown, we've just focused on land, but if there are features in the housing space that folks that are using our service are interested in, we'd be more than happy to try and provide that.
And Aaron, to get there, all you need to do is go to our price houses tab and it'll take you right to that page.
Awesome. I've got a quick question actually for all the listeners, and it's kind of unrelated here, but I'm going to take advantage of the fact that there are people here right now. One of the things that we'd love to see continue to do is work on our community, sort of like have these kind of events as well. And Pebble does have a community right now. And to me, Kevin, you might kill me for bringing this up, but to me, I feel it's a bit of a the system that we're on right now for it. I'm not in most favor of. And I'd love to sort of bring in Ryan and Max into the community too. And obviously you guys have access to it, but how would you guys feel about, and I've been sort of going back and forth on this with the Slack community. Is that something that you guys listening, if you're using Pebble, would you guys be interested in a Slack community? It'd be great to have sometimes even Ryan and Max announce anything, any changes on price inside of there. But in general, sort of meeting others, even connecting with others who are using Priced, is Slack something that you guys would be interested in? Cool.
Yes.
And yeah, all right. Well, that'd be great. Cool. Well, yeah. Well, it'll be definitely something we'll consider. And sorry, guys, I had to take the time here.
No,
there's
fine.
people here. I'd love to just kind of probe them around here. So, anyways, guys, thanks very much for joining us. If you guys have any other questions, you guys know where Priced is at. And if you, well, please do reach out to both of them. Ryan, Max, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse and Kevin.
Thanks again
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Yeah,
right,
always
guys.
great to talk with you guys.
Yeah, likewise.
And thanks for all of you guys that joined us. We're going to have another monthly, what do you call it, Mastermind next month. So do join us. And just a quick note, if you ever want to know what's coming up, just head over to our website, go to resources and upcoming events. You can subscribe to our calendar. It will add to your Google Calendar, so you'll always be alerted of what's going on. You don't have to I get told so many times, like, you guys have way too much going on here. I don't even know what's going on anymore. So we do have that calendar you can subscribe to and place onto your own calendar. All right, guys, thanks very much again. And we will catch you guys in a few weeks. Cheers, guys.
So long.
Bye.
Bye.